Welcome to Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged, a podcast for all women with a creative business who want to learn more about how to make money doing something they love. I'm Joanne, a female entrepreneur myself, 15 years experience running my own handmade stationery business, Vintage Twee. I'm an established seller on two of the biggest handmade marketplaces, so I've got a whole load of advice to share about how to start and run your own successful creative business. I'm also a wife and a mother, so I get the struggles of trying to do it all while you're raising a family. It's hard. Alongside running Vintage Twee, I'm also a mentor for other women like me who desperately want to work for themselves but just need that bit of support to get going and get their business dream off the ground. I'm a friendly northerner, I'm open and honest with a huge heart and a real fighting spirit, and I'm living proof that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to, even in the face of adversity. This podcast celebrates the selflessness, strength, and resilience of women in business. So if you're ready to ditch the 9 to 5 and learn how to start your own successful creative business, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. You'll have to excuse me this week. I have got a bit of a sore throat. My husband says that I sound like Phyllis, who used to be in Coronation Street. Do you remember her? Anyway, that's what having a week off does for you. You eventually start to relax, don't you, and wind down, and then all the illnesses come when you realise how tired you actually are. But anyway, I've had a couple of weeks off from recording, and I think the last episode I did with my husband Dave probably finished me off, if I'm honest, and I needed to have a little rest to recover. But no, everybody really seemed to enjoy the episode with Dave. In fact, I've had messages that say, bring back Dave, we really liked it. So I might be bringing him back on. Watch this space, you never know. But yes, we've been away. We have been on the Yorkshire coast, which is a beautiful part of England, if you have ever been. And we actually spent our last night glamping as a family. Now, this is something that I have never done before. And honestly, I don't know why they call it glamping, because there was definitely nothing glamorous about it. Like, it was bloody freezing, and our bell tent was pitched next to the camp's loudest snorer ever. And I said to Dave at one point, how can we hear this man snoring? There's like literally 2 cars parked between our bell tents. And he goes, well, never mind that, how's his wife not punched him yet? Which was very, very true. It was ridiculous. Anyway, it was a very small price to pay for the beautiful sunrise that I woke up to. And I say I because I was the only one crazy enough to get up at 3:45 a.m. So I didn't miss it. I mean, we had no alarm, so I literally was awake most of the night waiting for the sun to come up because we were conserving our phone's battery. We had no electricity there, so we just thought, right, we'll turn our phones off. Anyway, while I spent my night on the Flamborough cliff tops watching the fearless puffins perched confidently on the steepest cliffs that I've ever seen in the UK, I started thinking about fear. And do you know the 2 most common words that I hear from the business owners that I work with day to day, who are all self-employed, all running their own show, all setting out to do something that they love and are passionate about, all on a mission with one main goal at the forefront, which is to create a happy life on their terms without having to work for someone else? Those 2 words that I hear every time I speak to one of my amazing ladies are, I'm scared. Yeah, I hear these 2 words more than any other 2 words every single day. Yeah, and not just from the women that I work with, but also from my 5-year-old. I'm scared, help me, I'm stuck, I'm hungry. Those are the things as well. You know, they are annoyingly frequent too. But no, I'm scared. 2 little innocent words that have big, sometimes catastrophic consequences when it comes to your business. And I say catastrophic, not in the way that the world is going to end if you don't start your business or you don't follow it through, but in the way that they can cause major, disastrous ripple effects to your dreams, sometimes destroying them completely, like even before you've got started. Fear is the number 1 reason why the ladies I speak to have never, ever got their business idea off the ground. That anxiety that comes with this fear is crippling, isn't it? You know, it's worrying about the what ifs, the hows, the unknown. You name it, I have heard it all. So today, I wanted to talk about this fear that you might be feeling, whether you've started your business already or you're just thinking about it. And I want to help you try and find a way to overcome it. Because, once you have mastered that and it's not standing in your way anymore, that's when you'll really start to fly. You'll notice that your business just steps up a level. Things start to happen. You'll see a difference in your mindset, which will keep leveling up with every bold move that you take. But you'll also see a tangible difference, like ones that you're going to be able to measure, which is what we want, isn't it? More sales, new customers, new inquiries, bigger social media following, more opportunities. And you'll find that these opportunities present themselves to you rather than you having to go and find them. But this kind of stuff, it doesn't just happen. You actually have to push past that fear to get a whole different experience. You don't get to see the most beautiful sunrise by sleeping until 9 a.m, do you? No. You've got to get your ass out of bed at 3:45. You've got to head up that mountain, even if no one will come with you or they think you're absolutely mad. And you've got to push through it. Because once you reach the top and you've pushed through that fear and you've almost broken the seal on that fear that's been stopping you all this time, you will see what's waiting for you. Trust me. So we're going to talk about this fear today that you might be feeling right now surrounding your business, if you have one, or even if you're just in the thinking or planning or dreaming phase. And we're going to be talking about the things that you can do to overcome it, as well as some useful coping strategies when the anxiety just gets too much and you're in danger of being knocked off course. And we're going to go right back to basics here. There's no fancy theories or techniques that require you to, depart on a 3-day mindfulness retreat in the Himalayas. No, it's just plain and simple, basic things that you can do to bat away that fear when it comes creeping in. Now, as my husband Dave always likes to say, what would a caveman do, Joanne? Like, he uses this quite a lot, right? So when I'm stressing out or I'm panicking about something, especially when I'm overthinking or I'm overcomplicating something and I'm trying to find a solution to a problem that's actually pretty simple when you just break it down, he always says to me, Joanne, what would a caveman do? To which sometimes, if I'm honest, I reply, well, the caveman didn't have a bloody mortgage to pay, did he, Dave? But what he actually means is, simplify it. And I'm going to talk more about Dave's caveman theory a little later in the episode. But for now, I want to talk about your fear and what it is that you're actually scared of when you say those two words out loud or in your head, I'm scared. Now, the most common fear is usually fear of the unknown. Second to that, it's fear of failure. And then in third place, which is a strange one, and you might not believe me, it's fear of success. Now, honestly, that is a real fear of many small business owners, and I'll tell you why a little later on. But let's start with fear of the unknown. We are all scared of that, aren't we? As humans, we're programmed to be comfortable with predictability, and it keeps us safe. And again, it goes back to our caveman days, yeah, when we were in survival mode, or we had to be, or we're going to get eaten. I mean, at least it's not that bad now. It's not like if you don't make a sale, you're going to get eaten by a tiger or whatever else preyed on humans back then, yeah? But let's put it in perspective here. So we might have to cut back on the takeaways that month, or buy one less bottle of wine, or skim some luxuries off the food shop. Maybe miss a bill payment if it's really bad. But honestly, that's probably about it. But fear of the unknown is something that we all have to deal with, whether you're self-employed or not, because the world is an unpredictable place. It doesn't matter if you have your own business or you work for someone else. Anything can happen. I mean, God, my husband went to work one day. We'd not long had our daughter Eden, so I think she was only maybe just 18 months old or so. And I was just upstairs working, trying to get my stationery business, Vintage Tree, back on its feet after it sort of been desecrated by COVID and the wedding industry was on its absolute arse. And then all of a sudden I heard the key in the door and it was midday. And I went downstairs and Dave was just stood there in the hallway in tears. And he'd been made redundant with absolutely no warning whatsoever. Like, he'd just gone to work that day, just like normal, and then 3 hours later was out of a job with a 2-year-old and a wife whose business was completely, I say, on its arse thanks to COVID. And we were right up shit creek, honestly. But, it's proof that anything can happen, whether you work for yourself or not. When we were away last week, we visited one of the beautiful seaside towns near where we were staying. And we stopped off at this little beach cafe. Now, it was a proper traditional looking one, like with some old-fashioned, simple, nostalgic toys outside, the buckets of spades. But more than that, just things that reminded me of my childhood when we used to go to the beach on our caravan holidays, trinkets and treasures, like little bags of shells and messages in a bottle, and like animals made out of shells and things like that. And they were all really reasonable prices too, like pocket money prices, which I just thought was really sweet and lovely. Anyway, so Eden chose this paper fan that she was like obsessed with, and it was about £1, if that, which she then carried around with her for the rest of the holiday, and insisted on using it everywhere we went, despite the fact that we were on the windiest beaches in Britain. Honestly, she is bonkers. So I went up to pay for this fan and ordered 2 takeaway coffees from the lady who was serving behind the counter. And I was greeted with a beaming smile from her. You could tell that she was a grafter. When you just observe someone at work and they just have that like vibe and that non-stop energy about them, that hard work ethic. You can just see it, can't you? So this lady was there, busy behind the till, and she looked around mid-40s, and she was genuinely excited to serve me. She was smiley, she was friendly, she was enthusiastic. So I thought I'll pay her a compliment because she was really warm and approachable. So I just said to her as I was paying, I said, you said you've got such an amazing place here. I said, I love it. I said, you are living the dream, aren't you? And she smiled a little, but I noticed that it was a nervous smile or maybe even a little shocked. And she just goes to me, oh, really? Like, she was genuinely surprised that I thought that. And she turned to me and she said, I've only been open a month and it's really not as busy as I thought it was going to be. I'm scared. Now, those 2 words came at me again, and I wasn't even prepared for it this time. I was only going to pay for Eden's fan and my morning caffeine hit. But anyway, me being me, I took my beach hat off for a moment and I put my fellow entrepreneur hat on and I said to her, listen, don't worry. Like, you've only been open a month. It'll happen. I said, you'll get busy when the summer season kicks in. I said, look what you've done with the place. It's amazing. It's truly, truly wonderful. And she looked at me, so hopeful. And she said a heartfelt thank you for the words of reassurance that I gave her. And honestly, I wouldn't have said that if I didn't believe it. Now, if I tell you those words, then I mean them, yeah? And then she turned to Eden. And she started to tell me about her daughter too. And I noticed a photo of a little girl on the shelf near her till area. So I just asked the woman casually if that was the daughter that she was talking about. And then I just saw the light go out of her eyes and her smile fade, like I just flicked a switch. And she said to me, yeah, she said, yeah, it is. I've actually got 3 daughters, but this isn't the one that I was just talking about. But this is my 3-year-old who I lost in 2016. Oh my God, my heart just sunk to the floor. I immediately said how sorry I was. I welled up on the spot when she told me that once the shop was bringing in a stable income, she was going to have a donation box put by her little girl's photo for the hospice that cared for her. I mean, I was in bits. We had a really good cry together and I told her how brave I thought she was. Now, at this point, my fellow entrepreneur hat was well and truly tossed aside and my mum hat had taken its place. I mean, that poor woman. There was me thinking that she was living the dream with a beach shop and cafe by the sea, when really it was the product of the most unimaginable heartbreak and grief, and a way for this woman to keep her daughter close and to give her a purpose to carry on. She couldn't have predicted what horror she was going to go through 3 years after giving birth to her gorgeous little girl, Penny. Right? She had gone through the worst possible case of the unknown that no mother should ever have to go through. Was she scared about the unknown with her new venture? Yes, of course. She told me with those very words, I'm scared. Did it stop her from investing everything she had into this beautiful place by the sea? No, because for her, the worst had already happened. It made the fear of the unknown when it came to her business seem like nothing in comparison to what she'd already been through. Like, no matter what happened with her business, she knew that fear of the unknown no longer would stop her. She'd broken through that barrier and thought, do you know what? I'm doing it anyway. What have I got to lose? And it's that very attitude that will help you break free from those chains of fear. Now, we all have our own reasons for starting our businesses, and more importantly, for sticking at them and never quitting. And they aren't always as sad as this. But it's remembering these reasons, which are far more important to you than any amount of fear of what may or may not happen, that's going to make the difference. And it will help you break through that barrier that's holding you back. Because honestly, once you do that, there is no stopping you. You will just soar, and so will your business. So next time you're thinking that you're scared because you don't know what the hell you're going to do, and what if this happens, or what if that happens? Oh, it's just all unknown, it's too much. Just stop. Yeah, just stop and think. Think of me, right? I had my first camping experience last week with not one overly anxious nor a spicy family member, but two. My husband and my daughter are, to put it mildly, worriers. And they both need this high degree of predictability in their lives to function day to day. So for us, going camping was a risk. One that at one point I didn't think was worth taking, if I'm honest. Our camping experience was booked for the last night of our holiday. So my husband spent the 6 nights leading up to it worrying about the lack of electricity, how he was going to have his morning brew, what we were going to feed on. And so I was packing up the night before in our lodge that we were staying in, and I was getting things out the fridge, what we could and couldn't take. So I had some apples, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, hey Joanne, don't forget, we better take them apples. We're going to need them." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Well, we're going to be camping. We're going to be foraging for fruit, aren't we, and for food." I was like, "What are you on about?" So there's a Tesco a few miles down the road. We're going there to get our buffet picnic for our tea. I said, don't worry about it, Dave, honestly. Anyway, his main fear when it came to camping is that because there are no locks on the tents, someone could technically break into our tent and abduct Eden, right? That was his greatest fear. Now, in theory, yeah, this could happen. In reality, there wasn't a chance in hell that the abductor would successfully manage to remove our child in her sleep from our tent without us knowing, because A, she's never bloody asleep, and B, they'd 100% give her back because she is definitely too much for any person not bound by blood to handle, right? So I don't know what he was worried about. And also, our tent had these beautiful solar fairy lights around it, which looked gorgeous when it went dark. And literally 2 minutes before I dropped off to sleep, after finally getting Eden to shut her bloody eyes at 10:30 at night, he goes, "Oh God, I've just thought." Wait for it, you're like this. What if those fairy lights make our tent a target? For someone to break in and steal Eden. At which point I muttered a string of swear words at him and told him to go to sleep. I'm telling you, I've not got it easy on my two. I daren't tell them that the day before we arrived, I read a review of the campsite that said it was beautiful, but going to the toilet in the night was like taking part in a bush tucker trial, the amount of bugs in there. Oh, I mean, can you imagine if either of them knew? I even bought a potty to keep in the boot of the car in case anyone needed a wee. But anyway, I was really proud of them for embracing the unknown and stepping out of their comfort zones, because I know it doesn't come easy to them. But the second most common fear that I hear from the ladies that I work with or who I chat to is fear of failure. What if it doesn't work? What if I do it all wrong? What if I look like a right tit and everyone laughs at me and I can never face anyone ever again? So I'm going to have to emigrate to Australia and start a brand new life instead of going back to my old job at M&S, where everyone will look at me smugly and muttering, "Oh, I told you so," under their breaths. First of all, so what if it doesn't work? At least you'll have the peace of mind knowing that you gave it your best goddamn shot, right? But have you ever thought, what if it does work? And we'll come to that next. But surely the reward and the gain of it actually being successful is far greater than the risk of it not. Don't waste your energies worrying that it won't work, because I tell you now, parts of it won't, but parts of it will. And you aren't going to get it right from the get-go. I mean, Jesus, when I started Vintage Tree, I decided I was going to upcycle old jars, right, to make a living by decoupaging images of Victorian ladies onto the front and adding some lace and pearls and a few random buttons and then selling them in ye old bottle shop in San Francisco where I was living at the time. I mean, really? Like, that's taking niche to a whole new level, isn't it? But no, it took me a few months of making these jars and other different things to see what's selling and then finding the path that I wanted to go down with my products. Don't be afraid of failing. You need to replace that word with experimenting. That's what I say. Because it's much more forgiving, isn't it? Like, if something doesn't work, you can say that you were experimenting and it just feels more acceptable and more easy to digest if it doesn't work out how you'd hoped. And that's okay. Like all amazing, successful discoveries, there has been a journey to that point. A formula that has been figured out. And once you've found your formula, the products and the services that are working and selling, you can go all in on them. Let yourself experiment and find out what doesn't work because it's the only way you're going to find out what actually does. So how is that failure? It's not. It's good business practice. It's learning how to adapt and change and respond to the needs and wants of your customers. I used to be afraid of failing. But now, second time around we're in a business, I'm much less indecisive than I used to be. Maybe it's an age thing as well. I don't know. But I'm less faffy, if that's a word. But I'll try something, and if it's not working, after a couple of months, I'll move on. I haven't got the time to waste. I've got shit I want to achieve, So shift your mindset and don't think of it as failure if your new home fragrance that you've just launched doesn't make one sale in 3 months. Or if no one books onto your new course that you spent the last 6 months putting together. Is it annoying? Yeah, of course it is. What's wrong with people? But is it a failure? No. It was an experiment. The very definition of the word experiment, it's a test done in order to learn something or discover if something works. Now, in comparison, the definition of failure is a lack of success in doing or achieving something. Now, which one of those is more true of what you're doing when you're trying to build your business? It can't be failure because you still have achieved something, even if it wasn't what you hoped. You now know what doesn't work. So that is success. And the only real way to build a sustainable business which can adapt to the ever-changing needs of its customers is to do these experiments. Now, the third most common fear people often have when it comes to starting a business is one that you might not think is a real fear or a concern. Yeah, but I hear it a lot. And people have also said it to me a lot, funnily enough. And it's the total opposite of the last one, which was fear of failure. It's fear of success. Like, what are you on about, Joanne? Like you're saying, aren't you? I'd love to be in the position where I'm quitting my full-time job and I can go all in on my business. I'd love a team behind me. I'd love to be stocked in John Lewis or invited for interviews on the BBC because I was the woman who started a multi-million-pound company from my kitchen table. God, yeah, bring it on. Sound familiar? Where's the fear here then? Oh, that all sounds bloody great, doesn't it? Until the doubts start creeping in and our annoying brains start offering up the red flags that make you question it all. And then your thought process totally flips and does a 180 and goes like this. Well, what if this actually does work and I have to quit my full-time job? Shit, that's pretty scary. I won't have any colleagues anymore. I'll miss my chats in the kitchen with Sheila from accounts when I'm making my morning brew. Oh God, what if I employ people and they end up suing me because I don't know the first thing about employment law? And worse still, I get put in jail because I didn't offer them a workplace pension. Oh shit, what even is a workplace pension? What about sick pay? Panic! And then your mind just spirals and you're thinking about your stuff being stocked in John Lewis. Like, what if you can't keep up with demand? What if you do get invited onto your local news for an interview? Mumpton millionaire-esque. Shit! What if they want to come to my house to photograph me? It's a shit tip. And what would I even wear? All my clothes are from Primark, circa 1999, and my leggings have got holes in the crotch. No, I definitely can't succeed. I'm not ready. I'll just leave this idea a little while longer until I'm feeling more confident and I've got to shop somewhere other than Tesco for my clothes. See how easy it is to talk yourself out of it? This is a prime example of fear of success. It's a real thing. Someone said to me once, Oh, I can't do too well because I look after the grandkids on a Monday and a Wednesday because my daughter works at Betfred, so she'll need for me to have them then. Well, this is all very lovely, and I'm sure she's grateful. But if your idea takes off and your product or service becomes in demand, trust me, you can pay for a babysitter to look after the grandkids on a Monday and a Wednesday afternoon. In fact, you'll probably be able to pay your daughter the same wage to come and work for you instead and make it a family business. A legacy to pass down to the grandkids to set them up for life. Okay, that might be a bit extreme, but people are scared of success and doing well. And usually because they're worried about what that will look like practically for them. I remember when I started Vintage Tree, my auntie Anne, who was my mum's sister, who we actually lost really suddenly a couple of years before my mum died. It was really sad, but I remember she said to me, Joanne, what are you going to do if you get really busy? Can you cope? Oh, I hope you'll be able to manage. And I remember at the time thinking, well, of course I'll be able to cope. Like, why are people worrying about what I'm going to do if I'm successful? This is exactly what I'm hoping for. And I've since realised that the people who say these things to you, usually with the very best of intentions because they care about you, they're actually expressing their own fears, like how they would feel if they were in that situation. And my Auntie Anne was doing exactly the same. She was actually thinking, how would she cope if she was in my shoes and she was running her own business? She was worried about how she would manage if she got really busy with a business of her own and thinking that, well, she probably wouldn't. It wasn't that she didn't believe in me, not at all. Like, she was just putting herself in my shoes, anticipating how she would feel, which is what a lot of people do when they talk to you about your business ideas, and it can really affect you. It can really shake your confidence. So my advice is don't be afraid of success, because you know what? It's not just going to happen overnight anyway, right? You're not going to wake up one day and have Stacey Solomon knocking on your door because she saw your post on Instagram showing your new range of personalised water bottles and she's got to get one for each of her 10 kids or however many she's got these days. No, success is much more gradual. It's the little things that happen that all build up slowly and they make your business stronger week by week, month by month. It's the feature in the local newspaper. It's the satisfied customer who left you a 5-star review and then told 2 of her friends about you, who then purchased a water bottle each as well and then told 2 of their friends. It's the inquiry that you get from a random person on your website who found your products through organic Google search. That always feels good, doesn't it? This is what success actually looks like. And by the time you are making steady sales and earning a decent amount, and even looking to expand or take on staff or whatever, you'll be ready. You'll have the experience under your belt. And with that comes the confidence. So don't let fear of success be the thing that stops you from starting in the first place, because you will know exactly how to handle it by the time it comes around. So let's talk now about some of the things that you can do if you're feeling like any of these 3 fears, fear of the unknown, fear of failure, or fear of success, are getting in your head and stopping you doing what you want to do. So I mentioned earlier about Dave's caveman theory, didn't I? The fact that he always tries to think like our most basic ancestors, almost enter a bit of a survival mode, like when he's in a panic, or I am. So, first of all, fear, it's just a natural response that we experience when we feel vulnerable or unsafe or threatened in some way. And trust me, you're going to feel this a lot when you work for yourself. It's just part of the package. So you have to get some caveman tools in your belt to help you survive out there in the self-employed wilderness. And honestly, the best, most simple thing that you can do to really strip away that fear is to think worst case scenario. Like, what's the very worst thing that could happen if this didn't work out? Now, this is not about being negative. It's more about changing your mindset and putting things into perspective. So, could you lose your house? Doubtful. Could it be that your partner would leave you because you'd promised them that it's definitely going to work out this time and you'd spend all the money that you'd saved on a trip to go to Vegas on supplies and stock for your business? It's not a valid reason for divorce though, is it? For richer, for poorer, remember? They are locked in. Or you can't ever show your face in M&S again because you told your boss that you're going to be a high-flying business owner now and you'll never have to work a bank holiday or a weekend or Christmas ever again. Yeah, right. You're working all those when you work for yourself. But these are the worst case scenarios if it doesn't work out. In reality, the likelihood of these things actually happening are very low. Because if things really do go pear-shaped, then your survival mode will activate before it's got any chance of getting anywhere near these levels of disaster. You adapt, you change what's not working, and you swiftly act on it. Much like a caveman, the key to his survival was adaptation, being alert, resourceful, and using what limited tools that he had to succeed in surviving. And that's all you need to do. Strip it right back. Think about what is scaring you and approach it with the worst case scenario as your benchmark, right? Anything that happens that's not as bad as that is a bonus. Because if you don't make some small steps towards conquering this fear, it's going to take a hold of you and paralyse all your dreams and all your desires. I'll give you an example from our recent trip away, right? So my daughter Eden is 5 and she has never been on a bus. Right? She's really sensitive to certain sounds and sensations and basically has just point blank refused, like frozen in fear when I've tried to suggest that we take a little bus adventure somewhere, even just down the street. I mean, I'm not interested. Anyway, we were visiting the beautiful city of York here in England, and we had to do a park and ride thing. So you park your car up and then you jump on a bus and it'll take you into the city centre. Like, no stress of parking, it's great. So I kind of talked to her about it that morning, prepped her for it. I'd showed her photos of what the bus looked like. I'd checked the time, so we were waiting just long enough for it that her anxiety wouldn't creep in. I'd made sure that it was an electric bus too, which are so silent, aren't they, in comparison to the old 192 I used to get in the 80s with my mum. The hissing of the doors when they open and close used to make me jump. Sound like a bloody jet engine every time it stopped and started to pick someone up. It's so different now. But I said to myself, okay, worst case scenario, we get her on the bus, right? She has a total sensory overload and then she spends the next 18 minutes screaming that she wants to get off, pisses everybody off on the bus, is sick maybe, and then we're stranded in York and the day's a write-off. I've wasted a tenner on bus fares and I've emotionally scarred my child for life and she never uses public transport ever again, right? That's the worst case scenario. Could happen, it's not likely. The most realistic thing that would probably actually happen would be that I'd have to send Dave back on the bus to collect our car and he'd drive into York to pick us up and we'd just go back to our lodge. Yeah, day cancelled. Inconvenient, yeah, end of the world. No. And you know what did actually happen that day? You're dying to know now, aren't you? Well, she bloody loved the bus, didn't she, the little sod? She even said it was the best part of the day. Unlike the experience at the arcade on the pier in this little seaside town that we visited, when worst case scenario did come true and I had to execute the emergency protocol to get out alive, which basically consisted of me like swiftly scooping her up and carrying her through the crowds of hardcore 2p machine players. You know those type, I mean, don't you? They just keep firing the 2ps into the slots like their lives depend on it. They don't even look down at their tubs to see how many they've got left. They just keep going and going, hogging the same machine until they get a decent drop of 2ps, or even worse, stalking the people who've put all the work into getting the coins to the edge. Then they run out of 2ps and they walk away, and then that's when the pensioners swoop in, don't they? They put 1 2p in and bingo, they reap the rewards of the poor cow who just put a tenner's worth of 2ps into that soddy machine. Anyway, Dave's always watching out for them. So, it was totally sensory overload for Eden in there, and we ended up with a very upset and overwhelmed little girl for the rest of the day. And considering it was only 11 a.m, this was a very long rest of the day for us all. But my point is this, right? Whatever happens, you will survive. And most of the time, it never gets to worst case scenario. It's more of a blip. Something that you'll learn how to navigate and get through. Because that is what we do as humans. It's in our genes to adapt and survive. So don't let fear of anything stop you doing what you want to do. Equip yourself with some coping strategies. And you know what? If it all gets too much, take it back to basics. And if you can't, turn to someone who can do that for you. Mine is always my sister. She is brilliant at rationalising my fears. You can ask a trusted friend. or your partner if you have one. Though I tend not to ask Dave because thinking rationally isn't his strong point, as demonstrated by the "do you think the fairy lights make our tent a target?" camping, kidnapping scenario. Find a trusted mentor who's done it before and can control your fears for you. Email me. I'm here. If you need any help with this, seriously, don't let it stop you from doing what your heart is telling you it wants to do. And on that note, if you do want to take advantage of me and tell me your biggest business fears, I do a half-hour free video call to everyone who is in need of some help and guidance if they're feeling unsure or scared or stuck, or they just want someone to give them some advice there and then on whatever it is that is making them feel like that. So make use of it, I say. It could be the difference between you making a real go of your business or not. And if you do want to book in for it, you can just email me, herhandmadehustle@gmail.com, or fill out the contact form on my website, or send me a message on Instagram just to book your 30 minutes. We'll do a time that suits you. I would love to be able to help you. And don't forget to follow me on Substack too. You'll be the first to get my podcast episodes straight to your inbox, and you'll also receive a healthy dose of free business advice with my weekly articles. Plus, you'll get to hear about my bonus podcast episodes too. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and it's left you feeling fired up and ready to face those fears head on. Next week's episode is going to be a good one. I am talking all about the most annoying trends that you will see a lot of small business owners jumping on. And I'm telling you exactly why you shouldn't do them. So listen out for that next week. Until then, have a lovely rest of the week, whatever you're doing. I'm sending lots of sales vibes your way. And of course, if you do need to message me or contact me about anything, please do. I am here and I would love to hear from you. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you again next week.